Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 4 versus 4 on Dark Stream, and I'm going to be playing with the 39th Guards. So this is another of the new maps that came out with the latest update alongside the Twin Cities map, and it's a dark map, funnily enough, which has a river that goes all the way through. Look at that. It is very wiggly, that's for sure. But I'm going to be starting here today, and you can see I've already set off with a bunch of the Razvedka to get me some forward deployment and cut off any forces that are going to try and rush towards me, whilst also providing information on enemy forces. Now the reason I wanted to show this off today was not only because of the new map, of course, but also because I was testing out a new strategy in this game whereby I focused very hard initially on ATGMs. So you can see I've got the Fargo and I've also got the Conkers, and on this right hand side we got 2 Fargos and then we got one of the Conkers there. On the left we have a Conkers over here. I'm also going to be accompanying this with the 30mm Plamia grenade launcher, and I've also got BMP3 over here as well. So this has 2 Iglas and the Osa. You saw the Osa there shoot down a Black Hawk early on, but he did manage to drop off the units on this side of the bridge, so we're going to have to bring in something that can deal with that. So I'm bringing up an MI8 that will provide me with the exceptional optics that I need to spot the enemy units, and then we can do something afterward. The Razvedka here in a bit of a bad spot. They did get hit very hard by the Abrams, and they're going to get finished off by the Kiowa. So since I don't really have much meat on my bones here, I really do need to get some infantry in, get some potentially APCs, that kind of thing, to solidify a position in which I can bring in a command to contest this sector. Now, all of the sectors on this map are actually quite big. I don't know if I'm a fan of it yet. I feel like it makes the map decently long to play. I like not one side can really snowball the other very easily. But SU-25 coming in here, that's looking for an not an SU, a Leopard 2A3 that was hiding in the trees here, but Sani is going to be able to move that to the left and dodge that strike. I managed to just get away from that AA. But going back to what I was saying about the sectors, yeah, I feel like it slows down the game quite a lot, having a lot of these sectors crossing the rivers in multiple places, because, for example, here, getting across these 2 bridges to contest the opposite side is very difficult. So it kind of creates these natural choke points. Of course, in the game now, we do have amphibious capability, so BMPs and such can drive across, or float across, I would say, 2 different locations without having to go over the bridges, which is handy, but it still leaves you very vulnerable, as there isn't cover when you're in the middle of the water. So you do have to be kind of careful about where and when you do that. But as you saw here, my BMP3 got killed by the 2A3. It got spotted and taken out. And now we have the Lux and the Leopard 1A5 pushing towards me here, trying to get my Conkers to get on target. But unfortunately, it really wasn't doing me any favours, and I kept having to jump it out the building, because as soon as it fired, it would get spotted. Now Conkers unfortunately aren't the best. They only have 50% accuracy, and they've only got 20 penetration, which means against heavy tanks, particularly like the Leopard 2A3 for example, they're really not going to do too much. But thankfully I did bring up the MTLB early on, so I'm able to at least keep my Conkers alive. And I'm going to get the Razvedka into the building here. That is going to get spotted and shot at briefly by the Lux A1. We're going to see the first Eagle come in. SU-27 going to be taking that out. This is one of the beautiful units that the 39th Guards gets access to. The SU-27. Going to be seeing a friendly aircraft going down there. But yeah, slowly but surely, building up a couple of forces. I've got a couple of Mostrelki in the BMP3s. I've got a couple of helicopters, MI8, MI8T. I was hoping that I'd be able to spot with the MI8, and then we can kill with the rockets. Also the Battlegroup, of course, can reveal any infantry that are there. But yeah, the plan at the moment is to basically try and spot and kill all of the stuff that's on my side of the bridge in this little corner, so we can cut off this bridge and focus more to the left. H1F Heavy Hog going to come under fire from the OSA. Got pretty unlucky with this one, not going to lie. Since this does have 55% accuracy, we get there in the end. I do have the MTLB already next to me to provide more ammo, so that's okay. We did take one of my ATGM squads out. Now, in order to continue to deal with the tanks on my left flank, I am going to be bringing up my best tanks, the T-80BVs. These are the best that the 39th Guards has to offer. No UDs in this one. But two of those should definitely be able to pack a punch against a 2A3. So that was a plan. But currently things relatively slow. And I think just in general, any open map in WARNO right now does actually play quite slowly, because you have to be so careful that you don't get shot in the flanks while you're trying to push forwards. So if I were to, for example, to push up here where this Rozvedka is, I've got to be careful not to be shot over from the right or potentially from the left if I didn't own this area. But it's more from the right, so I'd have to deal with the units head on, and I'd have to deal with the units on the right side. So pushing this area is actually very difficult to set up. My BMP3's being shot at by the TOW 2. I'm going to be smoking, and then I'm going to be coming forwards with the BMP3s, getting those guns on target. MI8's going to have to fall back and land, get repaired. The BMP3s do start to get a decent amount of damage done. We've also got the Plumya grenade launcher here being used. Very difficult to see because it's so dark. Hitting the LRS squad there, trying to take it out. And with the TOW 2 down, my BMP3s are relatively safe to move forwards and try and take out the Stinger. Enemy artillery is coming in. I'm just going to run forwards away from that to avoid it doing much damage. And now we have an F-16C coming over with the Seed. Going to be attacking Yag's OSA. I did bring in my Su-27 to see if I could have a go. I'm going to be turning it to drop a long-range missile. Unfortunately, end up going straight over the top of all of their AA. I'm going to lose my Su-27. I did take out the F-16, so it wasn't completely wasted, but really not an ideal engagement. Anyway, job's done here. Taking out the TOW, taking out the LRS. Now I'm just hunting down the Stinger squads and hoping that I can clean them out so that my helicopters are safe to work in this area once again. Now that I have this under control as well, there's reason for me to move in a command. So my Battlegroup leader will be getting in here to countercap this sector and take away that +1 that the enemy currently has. On the left, I did have to capture Hotel because Gasteris, I think, was having a little bit of a problem dealing with Six-Pack Man. So, yeah, I opted to bring in the Hotel command there, and I just left it further back because I didn't want to have to micro it if it were further up. BMP3 taken out once again. If these BMP3s do get into range of a decent tank like the Abrams here, then you do have issues. OSA, lucky not to get hit by the HGM. Do manage to take out the Kiowa, which was really, really good. Take out that exceptional optics, and then now I'm just trying to do a runner from the Airborne Dragon, and thankfully the OSA's pretty fast off-road due to its wheels. With that, Conkers and the Fago are going to be moving up to cover the right hand side from these tanks, and I've got my own artillery on the field now that's going to be engaging the enemy airborne dragon squads on this side. So you can see here they are on the road, firing away. And I'm just keeping them on the road here so that if any counter battery comes in, I can just fast move them away. And in the meantime, we're just going to keep them firing as much as I can, really. Because in this patch, HE, particularly from enemy artillery, is not as strong as it once was. So you don't have to worry as much about counter battery. And therefore, I was pretty lazy with what I was doing here. Just kind of queuing orders, again, keeping them constantly firing. Enemy artillery coming in here as well. Just trying to get my T-80BV topped off, but the artillery is going to stop me there for the time being. And yeah, the next thing I need to do is sort of sequentially find and kill all of the units that are in these buildings. But you can see as soon as the Motorstroke try and move up here, we're going to get hit by the Abrams on the flank. So this is another thing that I've got to deal with. So I'm going to be setting my artillery to engage the M1IP. The Conkers and the Fargos have line of sight on the one on the right at least, so I am able to get a bit of damage in. Because they have a decent chunk of armour, you can see the Conkers and the Fargo don't actually do that much damage. I'm going to be dodging his artillery with the OSA, a little bit late on my part, and then I'm going to be trying to counter battery as well. And here, I'm trying to get the OSA into line of sight to engage the AH-1F, but two HGMs start flying my direction, like stars in the sky, and I'm going to have to pull that back. We're off to a slow start, for sure. But as I mentioned, that is kind of how this map plays out. At least we get to have a look at some lovely Su-25s that are going to be approaching the right-hand side. We've got an A-10 coming in from my opponent's Cyber. I have an Su-27 hovering about. He is going to be able to keep it alive for the time being, actually goes straight for my OSA. Thankfully the OSA on the left finishes the job, and my Su-27 is no longer needed here. HGMs continuing to get hits on target, so that is obviously very good. Because this one got stunned, they changed target. That is something you have to be a little bit careful of. Like, obviously it would have been better for these to be targeting the damaged one rather than the one with more health. Because you want to make sure you kill these so that he can't bring in supply, get them repaired, and then pull them back. And that's one way that I think artillery can potentially be very useful at the moment, keeping things from being repaired. Also, potential for me to actually destroy them with the artillery if he doesn't move them. Now the Avenger here, it looked like it died with the way it disappeared, but it actually didn't. We didn't end up getting that kill. But what I'm doing now with the Avenger kind of forced back, the Mi-8T is moving forwards to provide recon for the rockets. And we get that on target, and then I'm going to fall back so the Avenger can't come forwards and finish me off. Again, loose line of sight. Just as the artillery starts coming in. Abrams very low on health here though, as you can see. I'm really hoping that the Conkers can finish the job, but it just can't maintain line of sight. Avengers come forwards here. Plenty of shots. Thankfully, get out just in time. And with that, unfortunately, one of our teammates is going to surrender, which is not going to put us in a great spot because we're already down 1,000 points as a team. The enemy team has a +2, and yeah, the guy on my left has now left the game. Ideally, the way we'd fix this is get a command into this sector and potentially push out one of these sectors. Maybe we could do that. F111F coming in with the cluster. Not hitting anything because of all of the HGMs. He probably thought that there was like a BMP in here or something rather than an actual HGM squad, so that's why he opted to go for the F111. But not the right choice. And well, this Avenger, got to get rid of it. Mi-8 MT, going to be coming back and landing. And you can see that I'm setting up quite a few Su-25s. That was mainly to help Jagd on the right hand side deal with this abundance of Leopard 2A4s. Actually looks really cool as the Gepard fires past the screen there. AA cleaning up the Avengers, which is going to again open up the possibility for me to move forwards the helicopters. My Su-27 is trying to kind of ghost the F-15. I'm able to get a missile towards it. Unfortunately, mine misses, his hits. So my Su-27 automatically evacs as it runs out of cohesion. So Su-25s coming in for the strike. Unfortunately, the first one going to get forced off by the Eagle. Ends up getting shot down. Second one forced off by the Gepard. Third one gets hit by a missile. And none of the strikes even get close. All three of them shot out the sky. Not a great strike by me whatsoever. I was really convinced that my Su-25s would be able to get past the Gepard and Roland that were protecting the 2A4, but with the Eagle on top, apparently not. Which is unfortunate, because I'd planned to basically hit their AA with some of those cluster munitions whilst also hitting the 2A4s. But with that not being successful whatsoever, I haven't helped Jagdsource one bit. Meanwhile, on the left, the AI is currently ruthlessly pushing into Sunny here. That is what the AI likes to do. It is incredibly aggressive. So just pushing up, and you can see that it's even got an Mi-24V all the way back into the spawn. Absolutely ridiculous. F4F is going to get taken out by the OSA. Had a nice position here for sure. Now we got the T-80BV engaging the M1IP. Now this was actually really well timed because I'd put artillery on this as the T-80BV engaged. Unfortunately, the T-80BV not quite hitting enough target or enough shots on target, so the M1IP moves back. And I'm going to start to try and hit the Chinook instead. Now for this T-80BV, did not smoke in time, and the HGM from the Apache going to get the job done. This is the second most expensive helicopter in the game. Those Hellfires can be very, very deadly, particularly against any tanks that don't have 20 armor. And my T-80BVs, they're on 17. But they're going to do a decent amount with each shot they land. The Akula of Xanax here trying to force back the Leopard. Does do so for the time being. The AI wasn't being terrible, you know, it was clumping up enough that he couldn't just force his way in there, so that was good. And my BRM moving up is going to be finding line of sight onto the TOW 2. Unfortunately, the 30mm of the Apache is going to clip the BRM and take it out. But you can see my artillery still firing away, focusing mainly on the airborne Dragon units and the TOW 2s. But now what we're going to be doing is getting my OSAs further up with the Mi-8, with the Mi-8T. So we've got the Mi-8 MTA, the Mi-8 MT. They're both going to move forwards again together. I'm going to be looking for those TOW 2s and rocketing them if I can, whilst the OSA goes for the shots onto the Apache. And the Apache there dropping flares as the OSA comes in. And, well, unfortunately for me, the one on the left does get taken out. The one on the right just getting into cover in time. The F-16 here getting its seed missile on target. I currently had the radar turned off. I'm going to have to turn it off again here. You can see at the bottom, turned off. As soon as the F-16 comes over the top, I'm going to turn it back on so it can fire again. That one I did a little bit too early, a little bit risky. But But now with the F-16 here, just flying circles over the top. We're going to shoot it down. Barusa actually doing a pretty good job there, taking down that F-16. Look at that smoke trail. Incredible. Now on the right side, things not going great. The Apache covering one of these Leopards and not quite finding critical mass to break that down just yet. The bad thing about the Leopard 2A4s is they have incredibly good stabilizers. So on the move, they are very effective. So Mike here can pretty much charge towards the T-80s and hold that 65% accuracy, and that's super strong. But the Mi-24Ps and the BMP-1 here are going to be trying to chip these as much as possible at least. Meanwhile, my Akatsais continue to fire away. You can see that I've brought in some supply in the meantime. And I did manage to get my OSA to take out one of the AH-1F ATAS, but unfortunately got killed by the M1s over here, which had since been fixed up. Thankfully, T-80BV, solid shot there. And I was hoping that I could do some decent damage to the second. On the right side, after the Su-25s failed, what I did was I brought in a bunch of these Conkers squads. I've got a Conkers team here. It's reloading its HGM, ready to fire at the Gepard. And I was hoping to take out the AA so I could potentially do another Su-25 strike. We do manage to take out the Gepard at least. But meanwhile, my T-80 is going to go down to the Apache. Since they'd taken out the OSA previously, he knew that he could get away with pushing up there quite aggressively. Now I'm going to do the same, get the Mi-8s to go clean out some of the HGMs here, but the H-1F, this is a Viper that has air-to-air missiles, the Stingers, so got to be super careful with how I approach that. Keep my Mi-8s out of harm's way for the time being. Now Sunny really starting to make some decent ground into this sector, backing himself up with a bunch of M48s. They're going to be pushing in, cleaning up the rest of these forces. So soon I'm going to be bringing in some forces to help the AI over here. So Fargo and the Conkers able to take out another of the M1 IPs. I believe this was shooting at the one with more health. They are going to smoke off though in the end. Meanwhile on this side, my T-80BVs going to be hitting the Leopard 105. I've got the Su-25s coming in once again. One of my Su-25s did manage to kill the Leopard. The second one there did clean up the AA. We are going to temporarily stop his push here. We're going to need some more units on the ground to help us out. The T-80BV going to be engaging. I love the sound of the machine guns on these now. Listen to that. Very cool. Absolutely wrecking the Jaeger Aufklärer. Yeah, my plan was pretty much to go from right to left to flank the push that was coming in here. Just to kind of save us some time. These two T-80BVs coming in to reinforce. I'm going to be able to get some HGMs onto the M1 IP. Nice F-16 is going to get the hit onto one of my OSAs, but does go down. Every seed aircraft I kill is just another one that I'm not going to have to deal with, so I'm quite happy with that. Nice double kill there for the Su-25. Takes out the Alouette, takes out the M1 IP, and the two F4Fs actually failing completely to find the kill. I was hoping that my Su-25 could take out the Leopard 2A3 here as well, the leader, but I take the BO-105 with me at least. And I'm going to try and calm all the way around. You can see I'm microing it to get a shot on target, but do see the Roland I'm going to be happy with a kill onto a Leopard 2A3 if I can get one. I'm dealing with my own attacks though, as the Kiowa drop in Hellfires onto my T-80BV. F-111 coming in with the cluster strike onto my OSAs, and he does manage to kill one, and then he kills the second as well. Meanwhile on the left, my Su-25 comes in for the strike onto the 2A3 and gets shot down. But not ideal. Igler's having a go at the F4F. No OSA left on this area though. And 2A3 is trying to cover Sonny's flank. I'm going to be smoking myself off. Probably could have let that fire. Just didn't want the 2A3 to snapshot me. So engage with the one that has more health. He's going to fire at that one. And well, my T-80BV manages to get the second shot off anyway, but the plan was to come through the smoke there and get the second shot with the other T-80. And they are going to have to repair before we engage the other 2A3s. And you can see over here my artillery coming in to deal with the AB fire teams. Now these only have AT4s, and into the front armor of a T-80BV that's not really going to be too helpful. They're kind of forcing him into me there. And now we're going to be taking out those Vulcan 20mm. These are like the minigun systems, and well, they didn't last too long. Barusa blasting away into the fire team. Thankfully managed to kill it, and the AT4 misses. So that was good. And now the Barusa looking to take down the Kiowa. If I can kill it, that would be a really nice kill. These things aren't cheap. 155 points. But I do have to be careful of the airborne dragon. I can't ignore that. Black Hawk at least does get shot down by the OSAs. And now we have the AI actually coming over to me with a couple of units. So you can see I have kind of come over here with the T-80BVK to make sure that this continues to be contested. I've got the T-80BV covering the bridge with an OSA further back. And I'm going to be bringing in a couple of these OP AT units. I call them OPs just as a short name for their full name, rather than them actually being OP, as in overpowered. They aren't really that overpowered, but they are very strong AT infantry. Now Little Bird's having a go. I was worried that the Little Bird would get the stun here and then they'd be able to kill it, but the Little Birds have a limited amount of rockets, and thankfully the Barusa is pretty high veterancy after killing a couple aircraft. So I'm just going to be falling back, hoping to get my T-80 into a decent position, but this is some heavy artillery coming in. I'm going to have to try and get away from. I'm currently cycling out my supply, and in those Conkers and the Fargo back online. And I'm still sitting on Sonny's flank here with the T-80s, but hadn't got them fixed up yet. Currently a +2 for our opponents. They're still ticking up. Gasteris forced out of this sector for the time being. But on the right, Yak doing a good job of getting back in here. He's managed to clean up a lot of the Leopard 2A4s that were putting pressure on him. His T-80UDs have taken over this side of the river. Apache managed to get that shot down. Down into the river it goes, as the OSAs move up and take care of that. A-10 now coming in though, and my T-80BV very vulnerable. Can I get it? Both of the OSAs miss. Thankfully, the second OSA, just before it gets stunned, hits the second rocket and takes the A-10 out the sky. That could have been really, really bad. Like, if the first OSA had died and the second OSA had missed, then everything there would have died. Because the A-10 wouldn't have evac'd. Because what ended up happening there was the OSA hit the first missile, and then the A-10 ended up retreating automatically. That wasn't like the player telling it to evac. So, yeah, if it hadn't have evac'd, it would have just obliterated everything. And that would have been obviously very bad. The Conkers does get taken out. I'm of course smashing this with artillery as much as I can. We are going to be taking some counter battery fire, but you can see that the damage is very limited. I think depending on the caliber of what you're up against, that's what determines obviously how much damage you're taking. In this case, it's only a 105. 1.7 damage is not very much, so I don't have to be worried too much, and I don't really care about my supply trucks dying because they don't have any supply left. But we've got artillery coming in from the left as well now, so we're trying to deal with that. Just trying to hold the ground along the front to give us enough time to recover and potentially push back. A bunch of Iglas now brought up to help and deal with all of this, all of these helicopters that Cyber's trying to use against me, but he wasn't fixing them up, thankfully. He was fixing up his tanks, but hadn't fixed up any of these helicopters yet. And now I'm just trying to take out this 105. It's basically on 1 health, but I can't seem to get a shot close enough. Look at that. Just dodging everything by standing still. So what I'm going to do, we're going to put another strike onto that. I'm meanwhile getting my T-80s fixed up. We're preparing for my next push. So more T-80 BBs on the way. And this really basically comes down to what the game is kind of like right now, with the latest update, which then had to be hotfixed. It kind of has turned the game very much into a ground war more than anything. The quality of tanks is quite a big modifier in whether or not you can push in the game at the moment, and having decent long-range capability is also something that's very important. So you can see the focus here on the Abrams, the Apache with the HGMs. He's using the Kiowas with the HGMs. I was using all of the HGMs, bringing my biggest tanks in. You know, that's basically how it is at the moment in the game, particularly obviously in open ground. And I think for open ground engagements, you know, it was always like that in WARNO. You always had this sort of jewel of the heavy tanks, and if you didn't have the heavy tanks to deal with the enemy, then you would usually use airstrikes or artillery. But now, because airstrikes are less effective, well, HE airstrikes are less effective, AA is more effective, and like artillery is less effective, you know, all of those things sort of combined makes it very difficult to use any assets other than a big blob of tanks and maybe some smoke to cover you to get close. Like, that is probably the primary solution for most tank engagements at the moment. If you have inferior tanks, smoke yourself off, charge across the open. If you have superior tanks, then don't smoke, just charge. And make sure you have the recon to back you up. This was actually quite a scary situation for me because the Apache here has the potential to do a ton of damage to all of these tanks. And I didn't really have AA close enough with me immediately, so you can see I'm rushing up the Barusa here to get it on target. Thankfully my Igla hits its last missile and the Barusa finishes it off. My Osa is coming up the road as well, but obviously driving up the road incredibly risky when there's a Leopard 283 shooting at me. T-80BV tried to smoke off, but the shot from the Leopard just comes straight through. Not great. So I'm doing 1 damage there to the Leopard 283. It's 19 frontal armor. Unfortunately, kind of hard for me to deal with an 18 AP gun. F4F coming in. Is going to get shot down. My T-80. I think one of them did get destroyed. We were making a little bit of ground there, but unfortunately time runs out for our team and game's going to end, as they do manage to hit the score cap. And, well, unfortunately, with a man down, with the AI absolutely running it down, that's for sure. We were, of course, going to lose that game. But we didn't do too bad, and we certainly built up enough of a push at the end there that I was suspecting that I might be able to get across the river. And if I could have got across the river, then maybe I could have fully secured that sector and then used that position to flank maybe on the right, where Jagdsource was getting into a good position. Because you can see myself and Yags both positive KDs. I got 8,840 kills to 4,540 losses. Jagdsource 6,220 kills to 3,705 losses. Obviously, you know, he was put in a bad position early on, but came back with the TA-TUDs. And if I had managed to get across my bridge and then flanked into him, we might have been able to secure both of those right-hand sectors. But yeah, time just ran out. There probably wouldn't have been time left on the map anyway to get the score to win, but that's okay. This video was mainly about the HGM strategy, a discussion about how long-range engagements and open-range engagements go in WARNO at the moment, and how the play style in the open has been solidified or exacerbated by the changes that have been introduced by the latest updates. Like HE not being as powerful on artillery, like it did get a little bit of a buff in the hotfix again, but you know, it's not as much of a viable solution for dislodging tanks as it was before, because you have plenty of time to move your tank and get it repaired before the enemy push. So what I would say generally is better use for artillery now is smoke, get those cheaper tanks to get forwards with the smoke for cover, and then as you're getting close to engaging, then put the artillery on, so you're chipping away at the cohesion of the enemy tanks and doing a little bit of damage as well. You saw at one point my TATBV like perfectly engaged the M1IP as the artillery came in. It forces them to fall back and you gain ground. Like that's pretty much what you have to do in this sort of situation. But yeah, the OSA doing very well for me there. Getting an F111, getting F15, taking out an AH1F. Generally, my AA did well. My own aircraft did absolutely terribly. You saw me throw away multiple Su-25s. Thankfully, they aren't too costly compared to some other aircraft. But yeah, I think it was an interesting game and a nice discussion to have whilst looking, of course, at the new map, Darkstream. What do I think of the map overall? I think it's pretty fun. Those sectors are hit and miss. Like, I somewhat like the way that it slows down the game because you have to get across the river in order to really secure the sector, but at the same time it can become a bit of a grind, and I think there are only certain divisions that are going to be suited to this map. So yeah, we'll see how it goes in the future, but that's it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.